Okay, good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I'd like to just remind councillors and all those present that your image and what you say may be broadcast live to the public, so please be mindful of your actions and comments. You should avoid making statements that might defame or offend, and note that a recording of this meeting will be retained online and in council archives. Please turn off your mobile phones or switch to silent. Filming and photography are not permitted in the meeting, and anybody observed to be filming the meeting may be asked to leave. I now am opening the meeting, declare it open at 5:06 p.m. We have had a request from two councillors to attend via AV link. I should just my correct page for that. So we've had a request from Councillor Kyla Daniels to attend this meeting by audio-visual link, and also Councillor Kyle McGregor, in accordance with clause 621 of the Code of Meeting Practice.
I'm happy to move that the request be moved.
So that's
note that Councillor McGregor is not present in members.
yes. Okay. So mover. Second. Moved by Councillor Neil, seconded by Councillor McMurray. All those in favour? Okay, that's carried. Okay, so warm welcome to everybody in attendance and those watching at home tonight. I'd like to now give an acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we live, work and play, and pay our respects to Darkingham country and elders past and present. We recognise the continued connection to these lands and waterways and extend this acknowledgement to the homelands and stories of those who also call this place home. We recognise our future leaders and the shared responsibility to care for and protect our place and people. We do have two apologies this evening. One is from Mayor Laurie McKenna, who's unable to attend for personal reasons, and Councillor Trent McQuaid, who's unable to attend for work-related reasons. Therefore, I'll move following procedural motion anyway that in the absence of Councillor McQuaid, Councillor Neil as an alternate member be provided voting rights for the Community and Culture Committee meeting on the 8th of June 2025, which commenced at 5:06 p.m. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor McNamara. All those in favour? Councillor Walsh and McNamara moved and seconded, and it's all those in favour. We've all agreed unanimously. That's fine. Okay, so item 1.2 is disclosures of interest, and I'll now just ask committee members those conflicts of interest they may have in items on tonight's agenda. Firstly, for myself, I confirm that tonight I have no conflicts. Councillor Daniels, please confirm any items you have any conflict in.
No, nothing to declare. Thank you.
No conflicts. Okay, thank you. Councillor Daniels. Councillor McGregor, please confirm any items that you have a conflict in. Can we turn Councillor McGregor on? What's going on there?
Frozen. His hands up.
Yeah.
Still breathing.
Still breathing. Do we know what's happening there with the eye?
He's put his hand up.
So,
yeah. And that means he wants to speak.
Yes. Councillor McGregor, did you have something you wanted to say or a conflict?
It's his end. He's turned off.
Yes, right. Okay, well, I can't really do much about that at the moment, so I'll just leave that one sitting there. Councillor McMara, if you could confirm any items that you may have a conflict in.
Nothing to declare.
Thank you. Councillor Walsh.
Nothing to declare.
And Councillor Neil. Thank you. And just, I know in other meetings we've actually had the practice of if there are other councillors in the room, we also do ask.
Nothing to declare, thank you.
Whether they are actually a member or not, if they have anything to declare. Councillor Reid, nothing to declare.
Nothing, thank you.
Nothing to declare here too. So Councillor Crowley. So thank you for that. It. Okay, confirmation of the minutes. These were the minutes from our last meeting, obviously our first meeting. In fact, now there is an amendment that is needed or to be noted for these minutes, which is item 1.10 of the 11th of May meeting. In item 1.10, there's a third point that should have been there, which was missed from the minutes, and we need to actually move. I don't think I can move that amendment, but somebody would, if they're happy to, move an amendment. If you want to look at those minutes now yourselves and see where we're at, it's just the recommendation at the top of the minutes where there were two of that item, two paragraphs, and there should have been 3 paragraphs. And I can tell you what the third one is, if you'd like me to do that. So the third one, which we missed out, was, well, at least was missed out of the minutes, unfortunately, is a new memorial policy is to come back to the committee following the revoking of the existing policy for memorials, naming of council facilities and donations of park furniture and trees. The new policy is to focus on memorial trees and public tree planting. Yeah, and it was missed out. So moved by Councillor Walsh. Yes, I'll give it to you now. Do I have a seconder for that?
You're moving the adoption of the minutes with that additional.
No, the amendment.
We
have to
first. Oh, do we?
Yes,
Okay,
with that.
with the amendment.
With the amendment.
Okay, all right. So, okay. So now, so the minutes of the 11th of May meeting, calling for a move for the recommendation with the amendment.
Accept the minutes with the amendment.
Amendment, yes.
Moving. And John seconding.
John seconding that. John.
Right, let's move.
Councillor McNamara seconded it.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So all those in favour?
Right.
Any against? Okay. Thank you. Carried unanimously. Got that. Thank you. Now. Well, these are the items that we may wish to resolve by exception. As I call out the names of the items, please advise if you wish to star the item, an item to be discussed tonight. Items that aren't starred to be discussed will be resolved en masse, meaning the committee is resolving the recommendations contained within the reports. So the first item here is 1.5. The Toukley Community Facilities Master Plan for public exhibition.
Yep, keep that.
Want to discuss that? Right, so we're keeping the Toukley Master Plan. The second item is the, on 1.6, Australia Day Award changes for adoption. Do we want to discuss this? I think I'd like to leave that on there. So,
That mean you want to start? Are you starting?
yes.
Sorry, Councillor Castle. Page number?
It's already started now, so you can say.
It's okay. I've got the, yeah.
I'd like to start item 1.7.
1.7. Yes.
Chair.
Okay, let's.
1.8, the Wally Foreshore Master Plan for Public Exhibition.
Ms. Chair.
One surprise you were doing that one, Councillor Neil. And 1.9, the Central Coast Town Crier Support for National Championships. This is for endorsement. Does anybody wish to include discussion of that? Anybody or? No. Councillor Daniels, Councillor McGregor.
No, thank you.
Because lost him.
Hang on. Okay, so we're leaving that one.
Yep.
We're not doing that one.
Just confirm
1.7, we are starring it. So the only one that we haven't starred is 1.9. So, where are we?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Did you?
Oh, yes,
Can I ask a question, please?
sure.
Only some time ago, there was a master plan for Laura Head. It seems to have dropped off the list of things, apparently, according to the residents there. I was wondering if anyone knows
Any,
anything about it or.
anybody help us with that tonight?
I would have to come back to you.
Thanks.
So, do I have a motion to, support just decided,
So we're,
the starring and the,
so we're starting.
Sorry.
at one-
yes. Yes,
I'll move that.
okay, do I have a seconder?
Yes.
Okay, councillor Neil, so councillor Walsh and Neil. Anyone, all those in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you. I might just at this point, I guess it is moving a procedural really, isn't it, in terms of that item? As you will see, we have some staff here tonight to do some presentations for us. And they are on the Tukley Community Facilities Master Plan, which obviously we do wish to discuss, and also the Woy Woy Portal Plan. The Tukley,
So I'll move a procedural motion that items 1.5
Yeah.
and 1.7.
7, sorry.
1.8, Woy Woy 1.
Well,
Yeah.
1.8 be given precedent
Yeah,
in the order of business.
thank you. Yeah, do I have a seconder for that? Okay, councillor McNamara. So councillor Neil, councillor McNamara. Did you get that, ladies? Cool. Okay, so that means that we will be doing them up first is basically what it comes down to. Okay. All right.
Vote on it.
Yes, everyone in favour? All in favour, unanimous? Okay, so first of all, we do have item 1.5 to Tukley Community Facilities Master Plan. And obviously the recommendation for that. Have you just up on the board? So I invite Melanie Smith, Director of Community and Recreation Services, to speak and also to introduce our presenters tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
No problem.
So for those who aren't familiar with the site, under discussion this evening, it's quite a large parcel of land that sits on the corner of Hedder and Ray Street in Tukley. It's where the old Tukley Community Neighbourhood Centre used to occupy the building on there. At the moment, it has the Tukley indoor heated pool leisure centre, if you like, on that site. It also has one of our 8 childcare centres on the site. So the proposal before the master plan before you this evening is to look at some reconfiguration and potential future developments of that site. That being said, I would like to invite Phil Cantillon, who's our Unit Manager of Leisure, Pet Safety and Community Facilities, to walk you through the draft master plan. Over to you, Phil.
Thanks, Mel. Good afternoon, councillors. So, as Mel summarised, I've got the Tukley Community Facilities Master Plan for public exhibition. It is a high-level concept plan. Let's go through the background, how we got to this project. Tukley Neighbourhood Centre is a 50-year-old building. It was closed in 2021 following ongoing damp and mould issues. Then it permanently closed in 2023. The Tukley Neighbourhood Centre moved themselves to the town centre. This provided an opportunity to do some master planning for the whole site, rather than just going for a like-for-like building and look at it as a precinct rather than separate buildings. So a number of options were identified internally with the different unit managers, and a report was presented to ELT to engage a consultant and look at a design and look at what's possible at the site. So we engaged Seville, a Sydney-based design consultant, at a cost of 52 grand. And the project concluded in 2024, December 2024. We presented to ELT. We had some high-level conversations with some of the stakeholders, such as Tukley Neighbourhood Centre, the Tennis Club and the Lions Club. We're here today with the master plan. So just Tukley, this is what it looks like, the Tukley Town Centre overall. There's a number of community facilities in the vicinity, including the library and Tukley Hall and the senior centres. At Healy Street and Ray Street, quite a lot of facilities. As Mel's mentioned, you've got the aquatic centre, childcare centre, Lions Club, open space. Pretty close to that, you've got the sporting field and the park. I'll go into a bit more in depth of what we've got on that site. So it's a big site, 22,000 metres squared. Some operated by council, such as the aquatic centre and childcare, and some are leased. So the tennis courts are leased. Got the Lions Club, which operates under lease, and you've got a range of parking and play facilities as well. And as mentioned, you've got Tukley Neighbourhood Centre at the bottom left-hand corner. That's the facility that's closed. If you're not familiar with the facility, these images give you an idea of the buildings and the state and condition. Tukley Neighbourhood Centre, as mentioned, large site, but it's been closed. Tukley Aquatic Centre, quite a well-functioning building and service with 120,000 people per year coming swimming there, but it's an old building again, 40 to 50 years old. Tennis courts, they've been resurfaced in previous years. Got a small clubhouse and public toilets, and the childcare centre there at the bottom right. So some more images. Tukley skate park and the playground, pretty basic. A lot of open space, a lot of parking, and the Lions Club there. So that gives you a bit of an image.
Who's responsible for the signage? Tukley Lions Centre.
Themselves, it's under a lease, yeah. And again, it's just really got old vibes to it.
Are they just leasing, or did they build it and it's our building?
I'm not
Yeah,
quite sure of the
like
history.
Tukley.
They've got a long-term lease, so potentially they may have built it themselves. A lot of it is for storage of barbecues, etc.
But we can come back to you with that information.
Yeah, it just, sometimes they just, years gone by, they've built it out of money that they've
Yeah.
raised, and
If it's on council land, it owns, belongs to council.
well,
So we engaged a consultant, as mentioned, to look at what's possible at the site. They looked at different options around configuration. They looked at keeping the Tukley Neighbourhood Centre where it currently is, but that caused a lot of flooding issues and drainage runoff. They looked at putting it right north of the site, and they also look at the middle. So the preferred option was really to keep it in the middle. We keep it as a centrepiece, as a spine of the facility, and really locate some of the parking to the edges of the area, and just really towards the open space that we've got there. I'm trying to create that destination where families want to come, they want to picnic, barbecue, play in the playground, and utilise some of those facilities. So they looked at planning it as different zones. Number one being community centre, as mentioned, having that spine across the facility. Number two being play spaces, where Tukley Neighbourhood Centre is now. 3, keeping the aquatic centre where it currently is, but having a different configuration and an upgrade. Number 4, picnic areas right north of the site with car parking as well. Number 5, upgrading the clubhouse for the tennis. 6, having some memorial gardens, and 7, keeping the existing childcare centre but having a bit of an extension. So the new community centre, it would be proposed to be a regional size, so 850 metres squared. The current size of the Tukley Neighbourhood Centre is about 650, so it gives you a bit of an idea of the size. And I have a mix of community and commercial lease spaces, different office space, and hall usage as well. Total cost, you're looking at 10.7 million, so pretty significant, but there isn't a facility of that size in the north. Probably comparisons would be Peninsula Community Centre in the south.
That's for the community centre,
Just for that community centre.
not the whole site.
No, but that also includes some of the outside, beautification and rectification as well.
so you're saying it's similar to the Peninsula?
It's a lot smaller.
Yeah, a lot smaller.
This is a lot smaller.
Our biggest community facilities would be Peninsula Community Centre in the south, Entrance Community Centre in the north. The rest tend to be like small standalone halls, and probably the next one down to that would probably be Nora Head community centre, which we built a couple of years back, but the rest are really small, just a hall standalone. But this would have multi-purpose and be utilised by many services and benefit many communities.
And could I just ask on that, Phil, is it, are we going to be looking for, I know this is the master plan, so obviously it's a, high level thing, but am I assuming that we would be looking for, funding from various state, federal, whatever, et cetera, as well as whatever council sort of contributions might.
It is an unfunded concept plan at the moment,
Yes,
but there is developer contributions that
Yeah.
could utilise and state and federal government funding.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say it'd be heavily reliant on funding.
sure, thank you.
Just go through some of the other options. So they looked at the childcare centre. That's probably not the best looking building, but really functional centre. It is at capacity and potential extension, different rooms. Potential cost of that is 2.2, which would give you 20 babies per day, and an extra revenue of about 650 grand per year. The aquatic centre. So
Can you go back to the last question?
Yes, sure.
Revenue is 650, but what about the expenses?
yeah, there would be extra staff as well. So you're probably looking at a potential.
I'm sorry, to me, that's misleading. I'm sorry.
Sorry, what's misleading about it?
So the extra money that you derive,
Like still in early childhood?
yeah, the extra income is offset by the extra wages, that's all.
So it's not showing the net.
No.
But we can come back with the net.
Yeah.
Particularly aquatic centre, what we proposed there is looking at configuration of the entrance and having a bit of an outdoor splash park. We've currently got a toddler's pool there and, create a bit of a modern contemporary outdoor splash bay and a cafe as well. So make it a bit more inviting. But as mentioned, the lap pool is very functional. You've got your hydro pool there, that's really busy. Changing rooms have been upgraded in recent years. And that would cost about 4.9.
Does that pool need to be redone or is it still in working order?
It's a 25-metre pool. You are limited in what you can do in terms of extending. You can't really
I
extend.
don't mean anything, but is the pool itself?
It's still within
Yeah,
its usable
It's
lifespan.
in good condition. We've painted, we've put H and heat and ventilation system in over the recent years. We've put new diving blocks in. So it's in good condition, but it's probably, getting that capacity as well. So some of the costings of the zones is, as mentioned, the child community centre 10.7, aquatic centre 4.9, different tennis clubhouse 2.5. All in all, it comes to about 24 million, but that can be delivered in stages. It's not dependent of all being done together. You can do stage one, potentially some open space improvements, and look at those as a long-term concept plan.
Have you got a recommendation on staging?
Your main one would be the community centre with having Tukley Neighbour Centre close, and once you've done that, you potentially could demolish the old centre and do stage two.
Thank you.
So bit of logic and work through it, but yeah, your urgent need is the community centre.
Not only zone one, stage one should be the community centre as well, okay.
Councillor Daniels has a hand up for a question. Councillor Daniels?
Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure if I missed it or not. Just back to the aquatic plan. What was the blank section 5? The number 5 off to the left.
Looking at a bit of an extension into change rooms. Yeah, so some of the numbers don't match up to the table. The numbers were in the consultant's reports of opportunities, then they were firmed into different actions and different costings. But in a nutshell, those proposed upgrades are extending the arrival, better entry, better cafe, and new water play.
The 5 isn't anything, is it? That's just not opportunity, but no recommendation.
Probably maybe some gardens or something like that, beautification, or the front centre. The consultants also looked at Tukley Library and Tukley Hall. Again, we're looking at what's possible and do you really need a Tukley Hall when you potentially got a new community centre? So the recommendation is there is an option to potentially merge the library and the hall together once a new community centre has been completed, but that wasn't really costed or looked at in too much detail. So if you're aware of the library site, quite confined location, there's quite a few beautifications, rectifications you can do with making it a bit more open with the kiosk. On the hall, it's pretty small standalone hall. So if you've got those services in your new community centre, do you really need another small hall, which is just 5 minutes distance away?
Is there actually a meeting area in the proposed community centre?
Yes.
Yeah, there's plenty of space in the community centre. So different meeting, different offices, different large hall.
Oh, there is, yeah, there is one. So would you, is it suggesting that the hall and the library should really just become one library? Is that the idea?
But potentially you could extend the library and utilise that hall space in a bit more meaningful way. But again, that's a real long-term action once you've got a community centre in place. So we didn't really delve too much around the options with this one, so costing. We just highlighted that there is an opportunity there to look at redeveloping that site into a bit more open space.
Was there an option of moving the library into the new building?
Yeah, we looked at that one as well, and it wasn't a recommendation by the consultants. They thought where it currently is good because it's in walking distance of the town centre, and people like to walk just to the library and go stay around that town centre. So yeah, they proposed to keep it where it is, the Tukel Library, rather than trying to put everything into a new building that then maybe pretty squashed for space and pushing out some community. So this was just really a summarised slide around the master plan, that there's opportunity for all ages and interests with open space and community spaces. As mentioned, it can be delivered in different phases and limited dependencies. Car parking is pretty large at that site, and it would increase from 78 to 92, but putting the car park on the peripheral, the top north and the top on the left-hand side as well. And as mentioned, external funding would be needed, but now you've got some concepts in place, you've got something to, approach state and federal government with.
Right.
The car parking, is that within the boundary, not the street parking as well?
Yeah, keeping it in the.
They got 92 plus the street parking.
Yeah, so current parking is right at the centre of the site, so now at the peripheral of the sites and utilising that centre of the site for the community centre and for the open space and playgrounds, barbecues, etc.
At the moment, a very large, you're familiar with the site.
Yeah.
At the moment, the car park consumes a very significant
Does.
portion of that parcel of land.
It absolutely does. Yeah.
The other, so the movement of the community centre into the spine and the location of the playground too is that corner where the existing community centre sits.
Yeah.
Is when we get significant rainfall, the water goes through that.
So the parking would be down there, down the side, and right at the top.
So where is the water runs?
So see number 2,
So
that's where the existing neighbourhood centre is.
Mhm.
That's where we have water issues when we
Is
have.
it running that way or is it running?
It runs down from the top right-hand corner down to the bottom left-hand corner.
Bring that across the whole lot.
Do we have any more questions from anybody? We move on. Councillor McGregor, Councillor Daniels up there on the screen. Anybody else?
Just going to comment on the library, having never been to that building, and it actually doesn't look particularly inviting, just looking at it. Okay, so I live in the area of the Kinghammer Library, which is very inviting, not great parking though. Yeah, it's just lovely to walk in there, and the activities that were expanded in that library, because obviously it was a new one, but really brought the community in. I felt like back then when Best open.
So the intention is that in the not too distant future, that we will revisit that site, look at that site and look at development opportunities to make it a little bit more inviting. We deliberately didn't put it in with the precinct master planning of this site because a lot of the anecdotal information that we get back is where it's located is ideal for the demographic that use it. So it's looking at in future years what we do, why we master plan this site as a priority over that site is the building is completely and utterly unusable and there's so much opportunity.
Yeah, but with the hall coming into the library site, sounds like there's a lot of opportunity to make a lot more inviting and and open it up to the community a lot more. So the usability would be increased, you would imagine. Yeah.
I disagree.
I disagree. Why is that?
I have used that library only a couple of weeks ago.
It's not inviting. The money you would spend on that to make it like the one you were talking about, you would.
Which was new.
Yes,
The cucumber one was
you would.
new.
You could use that money to create a new one.
Oh, you think they should just remove the two buildings and build a library?
Look, I understand why the consultants may not have wanted it, or you gave them that direction, but I think it should be part of a master plan as an option to say to the community, it's going to go out, right? There is an option to add another big room onto this building that will be your new library. Give us some responses to that. That's why we're going out on exhibition.
You mean to the community?
Yeah.
I think most people would prefer a separate
I
library.
think part of the logic behind that was that to do that would consume more of the open space, and the idea of creating a precinct is a destination place that has open space, particularly considering the oval that's within Cooee of that precinct. Often there's families that go to play active sport over there. The young kids can come over here to the playground. So you've got all of those outdoor opportunities together. That's not to say that the feedback that we might get when it's out on public exhibition might suggest that we go back and do some refinement to include the library.
How big do you make libraries these days? I mean, the building.
They don't have books.
They're only $32 million, remember?
Yeah, no. But is it just another big room that would go on this building? Is it, there's,
Libraries are a cultural hub.
well, that's what this new centre is. I'm trying
A
to
private cultural hub rather than a public one. I think it's for private.
look up on the top left hand there. Like I've been to a number of new ones like the one at Hamlin Terrace and those sorts of places. And there's lots of rooms in there and lots of bigger rooms in there. I don't know what else extra a library function would add to it.
We might have to perhaps move on because we're going to run out of, time if we're not careful.
I just had a question.
Just quickly. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, very quick. I guess I'm a bit mystified as to doing a master plan for this site. I mean, I understand, explain why you did it, but with the ovals, as you said, virtually next door, I just am surprised that they weren't considered and sort of integrated a bit more. And then the other facilities, I mean, in my view, what's needed is really a master plan for Turkley, but I understand that's a much bigger project.
Yeah, it is. It's significantly bigger project.
Okay, so maybe what we could do is we'll have a look at the we can see what our recommendation is here. Do I have a motion to support the recommendation?
I have a question. Is 28 days, going to be enough? I know that you've had lots of discussions with the community already, but when we go out to other master plans, especially looking for feedback, a lot of people say that's just not enough time. Policies, things like that, yes. But got a view on 28 days?
Potentially, if you wanted to extend that period, that's absolutely doable. So if you wanted to extend it to say 42 days, that's absolutely doable.
So are you moving an amendment that way? Are you?
Well, I would move the motion
Yeah,
and change the 28 days to 42 days
yeah,
as my motion.
okay.
As the recommendation with 42 days.
Yeah.
Correct.
Happy to move to second that.
So councillor McNamara, moved, seconded councillor Neil, to include the 42 days of exhibition. All those in favour of that proposal? Yep, I think unanimous. Councillor Daniels, is your hand up? I'm having trouble seeing. Oh, yes, thank you. Councillor McGregor, saw you before. Thank you. So that's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Thanks again, Phil. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Phil.
We are now heading down the other end of the coast, I believe, to Woy Woy.
Ending the code tonight.
Funny boy.
Woy Woy. So we're actually doing now 1.8 as we did decide that we would do that. And that is the Woy Woy Foreshore Master Plan public exhibition. So Brett Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in 2022, there was a Woy Woy Master Plan developed. This project that you see before you tonight is we engaged Moya Studio, the landscape architects, to review the concept designs and the foreshore. And this is what Brett will be presenting to you tonight. So I will hand over to Brett.
You. Continue, Brett. Thank you.
I've invited Alex along. Alex is our open space and recreation planner. So this is his role. And as Mel said, there was the broader Woy Woy master plan, and out of that master plan was our portion of it, which is the Woy Woy foreshore master plan. You want to? I'll get Alex to start talking.
Yeah, big thank you for having me along this evening. I guess I've been with council for just over 2 years now. And when I first started, this is probably one of the first projects that Brett put in my lap. So I guess I've had carriage with this project for the past 2 years. Before I get into the presentation, I just wanted to introduce sort of the concept design here. So it's in the design report, but through the project, we've had 3 changes of project managers on their side of the fence. But with the second project manager, we started to introduce a concept around the lines. So the light blue being the water's edge, the green being the land, and the dark blue being the space between. So that's where they're talking about the corridor as the experience and how it changes as you move from east to west along the corridor. I thought, again, just as a bit of a recap for everyone, we've engaged Moya Studio, and that would have been probably the start of middle of 2024. And their engagement was around concept design and then also detailed design. So that master planning phase and then detailed design for the purpose of, I guess, going out for construction and tender. Through the project, we went back and reviewed the work that was done. So there was the 2022 draft Woy Woy master plan. There was also the 2019 Let's Talk Woy Woy engagement. So we're looking at that body of work. The concept design hasn't changed in any great shape or form, but we're just drilling down into more of the precincts around potential and opportunity. And I guess some of that branding as well. Also with the draft master plan in 2022, it didn't have the cost estimate. So that's what we've included in our body of work with a concept design and also a cost estimate, which we'll touch on later in the piece. Also worth noting that we were successful with a CAP with state government. It was a flood inundation grant. So we had the swimming enclosure, which we applied for just over $1 million, which we were successful with. So there is the pressure to then deliver that grant, which means having the concept endorsed by council, post public exhibition, and then doing the detailed design for swimming enclosure.
What is the drop dead time for it?
We're meant to have it completed by June of 2026. I can see us potentially, if we do go over that, yeah, or we can seek an extension. So that if we don't meet that deadline,
Ideally, we'd like to get as close to that deadline as possible.
the plan B would then be seeking extension through the government.
There is also a bit of impatience with the state of that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's critical. Just a note there. So through the project, we've probably got it's not just our unit, there's probably a good 8 to 10 touch points or units within council that have contact with Woy Woy. So we've done rounds of consultation. There was a kick-off meeting. We had a concept design at 50% and then 100%. So we've had a good 3 to 4 rounds of consultation. Again, being relatively new to council, sometimes we thought we had everyone in the room, but then we found out that we'd sort of missed certain units, but would come back and have the same conversation through the project. It's also worth noting, so again, along the foreshore OSR, our unit, I guess we're responsible for maintenance of the foreshore and parks and play spaces. We've also got community facilities with FAM with, say, public toilets. We've got our infrastructure director with the footpath and other infrastructure and underground services in the corridor.
And environmental.
And there's also environmental aspects as well. So you've got asset owners and there's also.
If we stay to the master plan.
Yeah, planning layers. Again, there's heritage component, there's inundation, there's the catchment. And then, so this is just a snapshot of the planning scope. You can see moving west to east, number 1 being Anderson Park. So we'll drill down into that. 2 and 3, 2 being Pelican Park, 3 being the swimming enclosure, 4 being the Memorial Park. And then we've got 5, which is, I guess, a western wetlands and the other side being an eastern wetlands. And then we land at 6 on the, I guess, the eastern end being Lions Park. Just going back one slide, please.
Okay.
Brad,
No worries.
if you can just see, it's a really constrained and narrow corridor, particularly in that central area. So that's where we're focusing. We're probably going to get the activation from the western end and the eastern end, just where we've got land, so land that can be used and can be developed. So just drilling down into Anderson Park, we've got 2 options here. We see this as a passive space. So I guess on the other side, we've got Pelican Park, we've got swimming enclosure. There's not a lot of breakout space, so there's existing vegetation.
Is that purple?
Essentially, it's like a circular seating, a yarning circle.
Is it actually purple?
Oh no, that's right. That's the art walk. So we're looking at including cultural interpretation through the project, and that's a slide that I will touch on. So that's
The proposal.
So for a little bit of history,
I was trying to work out what it is.
Yeah.
Is it flat or is it
it's a path.
just a part.
park?
So
Not actually purple.
not long ago, a couple of years ago, council put in a playground in there because there's a push to get a playground in there. Community wanted it moved. So the feedback is that shouldn't be an active space. It should be a passive space. So the only thing that we put in there for consideration is like that's a pathway. And Alex will get to it a bit further on about the culture interpretation. There was talk that potentially within that park, in that footpath, you could have some information that provides the history of the Woy Woy. But it's almost a do nothing scenario. There is they did put an alternate scenario. Is that in the next?
It is. Yep.
So they did say, well, if you want to be more, I guess, artistic like, they were looking at, you could have like a seating place where people come not to ride skateboards but to sit. And so this was, I guess, the architectural sort of thinking, but probably wouldn't have gone down well if we come and said, this is what we want to build there, because there is the do nothing, which is just put a pathway that gives you access in and out, or there's something like this. But it's to go to the community and say, this is a passive place, this is a passive space. What is the best? Give us some feedback on what should really sit there, because it is just a grass space. It's directly opposite the wharf, and I guess it's the entry.
Some fountain sort of
There.
jigs there. I don't know what they actually are.
So there used to be a fountain there.
Like one of those things that spurts,
Yeah.
but I think it's sort of
It's
failed.
been decommissioned for a long while because it didn't meet the, I guess, confined space. So the water actually captures underneath the ground, the pumps, electrical, everything's under the ground. It was decommissioned many years ago because it was just too dangerous. It is named after a family. What's the name of the park again? Anderson Park.
I never know, and I've lived in that area for 26 years, and I had no idea it was called Anderson Park.
Yeah, and there is a block in there with a plaque on it in replace of that. So the reason we threw in there, so that's pretty much a do nothing one, just a connecting path to get into, I guess, passive seating, and then doing some arty sort of stuff as a consideration.
The playground that's there was put in. There was significant objection because it joins the beer garden.
I don't remember there ever being a playground there.
was only, was only removed probably 12 months ago.
Yeah.
Basically
When
next
did it
door.
go
to the
in?
pub,
Probably
isn't it?
5 years, probably 3 or 4 years it was in there.
Maybe 22.
It's not the pub.
No, I know where the area is, but I don't remember there being a playground.
Really?
And I go there quite regularly.
Yeah.
Not to the playground, but to that area.
I've got those two options to test. One's a minor change, one's more radical or iconic, but
I mean, if you want my feedback, I'm happy to give it to you, but I think that it's quite this is very much a central attracting point for people who live on the peninsula for recreation. Plus, it also attracts quite a lot of international visitors. The area further up near the Fisherman's Wharf is extremely active, and it's quite a large playground, which is very nice. Has a lot of seating around it. I think there's really to add additional activity at it. I now know it's called Anderson Park. It's probably wouldn't be appreciated and is probably just a waste of money. And I can see that there it's going to attract people with skateboards almost instantly. So
that's why this was our option one, is to just have.
no, I understand. I'm just giving you feedback about. I think that it's probably by far the better option, but you'll get feedback from the community, I'm sure. So, sorry, I'll let you do your presentation.
no, that's
I'm just about to suggest, how about we move through the presentation and then we can
No worries.
come back and visit.
2 and 3, I guess, Pelican Park swimming enclosure, I guess, 2 different precincts, but they're actively sort of one. You can see on the right-hand side, we've got a 3D render of what the proposal is. Part of it is, I guess, in the middle of, I guess you'd know where the old amenities block currently is, which is a pinch point and blocking access along the corridor. So we're starting to site that, I guess, on the eastern side of the precinct, then also providing access to the water. And I guess, yeah, bringing a modern approach to the swimming enclosure.
The one we have.
Is the before it's going to be removed?
And then we're siting it and taking it off sort of where it is, that central path, but then shifting it forward to the north. So it's
And
less
then
of a
you
pinch point.
So I'm not sure where
It's
Further away from the road, because we're actually almost, sorry if you can see here, we're actually reclaiming some of the water. The water currently is scoured all the way back here. We're reclaiming some of that, which will allow us to bring this away from the central pathway. It's going to be a lot smaller and a lot more attractive.
So the toilet block will be smaller.
Yes, there'll be one, but it won't be of that same
size and scale.
size and ugliness.
Yeah, at the moment, I think it's 2 cubicles, men's and women's.
Yeah, with a shower as well.
Is it?
Well, men's does. I haven't been in the women's. And that the swimming enclosure is the one we got the $1 million grant for.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Thanks. Next.
With moving along, so Anzac Memorial Park, through the project, we started looking at the park, but then also what could be done to it. So engaging with our strategic planning and our heritage officers, that's where obviously the advice that it's got sort of heritage listing. And we really couldn't do anything prior to do a heritage conservation CMP. So that's where we've left it alone. It's also noting that we've got the seawall, which has the plaques attached to it, which are failing. But I guess the layout of the park being the Australian flag is significant. But the best way to tackle future planning for that space is through the CMP process. So I guess we've excluded the Memorial Park, but you'll see on the northern side, we're proposing that continuation of the Water's Edge Walk. So I guess being able to navigate around the swimming enclosure and then continue east along the edge of the wall. And as you see, it comes out into then the wetlands precincts. So we're showing
taking in land from the Memorial Park that
just building, I guess, a freestanding
like on the what they call
a raised boardwalk.
Yeah.
Similar.
Just quick.
Concept.
So this, where the wall is here, at the moment, there's a concrete slab down, and it's below high tide level. So the tide goes over it and under it, and which is causing a lot of erosion to the wall. This is saying what we need to do is put a concrete wall behind there, which protects the memorial, and actually build a path above high water level. So it's actually so you can actually walk along there no matter what the tide is.
So the wetlands precinct, I guess you can see the western side being the top image and eastern on the bottom. Part of the issues that we have is that informal access through that wetlands area on the lower image. So we're looking at through the boardwalk still having access to the water, but then preventing that access through the wetlands, I guess, to protect the wetlands environment.
They're desire lines. So the feedback from our environmental team is there's a lot of desire lines where people park there and they just want to get straight to the water. But by building this, we can actually direct them to one of 3 points and then take them to the water without going through the environmentally sensitive land.
Sorry, I'm not quite clear. How do you prevent them doing that?
Well, these will be raised walkways with fences. They have like fences either side. So if you're walking through here, it's actually quite hard you have to climb through the fence, up and over through the next one. So it creates enough of a barrier to try, it's going to be, if you're here, it's going to be less trouble just to walk there and down than it is to walk through the bush and climb through that down there over the next one down.
And you can see
they're going to be raised
where the boats are moored, that's where they access sort of that north-south connection. So taking them out of that.
Brett, when you say raised boardwalk, you're talking similar to Terrigal construction, or your concrete, or what are you doing?
Oh, it's a FBI, it's like recycled plastic.
Yeah, so it'd be piered, potentially like as high as this, or a little bit lower piered, and that, it's like the see-through mesh. Unlike what we do our jetties with these days.
Okay.
There's a path along the waterfront already. When
Along the road here?
No, on the other side. Like there's from down the other end.
Yeah, this one that runs through here.
There's actually a path along here as well.
Like an informal water's edge.
Yeah, I think it's more than informal. I think it's like 80.
Not where? I'm going to go for another walk down there.
Yeah.
I wanted to go too.
We need
You're
to.
making all this stuff up.
Sorry. So Lions Park, we've got 2 options, and you see the differences around the parking layout. With what we're proposing, the eastern boat ramp, I guess generally there's a lot of conflict. We've got park users, we've got the multi-user path, and then we've got vehicle movements in that space, which is not ideal. So we're looking to retain the western boat ramp and improve that with a sort of a second pontoon. But then on the eastern side, decommissioning that access for vehicles, still having it available for light craft, so it could be dragon boats, and your sea canoes can still launch from the eastern side. But then that's just to mitigate some of those safety concerns. We've still also got an east-facing boat ramp, which is at Coolywong. So again, only 3.5 kilometres away, still east-facing, and there we've got dual access and plenty of car parking. So it might be viewed as a loss, the eastern boat ramp, but we've still got improvements to the western, and just generally seeking comment from the community who uses that space around preferred parking layout.
So remove the boat ramp.
No, they decommissioned
So-
Here's
Not the same thing.
You won't be able to reverse a vehicle down there, but you'll be able to carry kayaks or canoes or.
You won't have a use for the boat ramp.
Pardon?
I'm not really clear what you're saying. You won't be able to use the boat ramp.
Not to reverse big. It's a very shallow boat ramp. It hasn't, like the jetties over there, it's not connected. It's not highly used.
So there's the other one as well.
Yeah, so here, which we're going to would be putting a jetty on both sides, so you can actually load two at once rather
So
than.
that one's not highly used. Is
This
it?
one down here, not because it's very shallow. It's not a deep water. This one's a deep water. Your prevailing winds in summer are your nor'easters. So your nor'easters blow directly in this way. Where across here, if you've got your nor'easters coming in with the second one, it will actually protect. So it's protected. I've got a boat. I use them. So
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly heavily used, that boat ramp
Yeah.
in the centre.
Well, that was just the final piece. When we did, I guess, the 2022 draft master plan, there wasn't the connecting with country framework. So it's basically, it's around 2023, the state government released this framework, and it's for local governments and around engagement with the Indigenous community and the relevant stakeholders, and then also the framework to interpret cultural design into these type of projects. So that's where through the project, something that we weren't aware of when we started the project. But since then, we've had a walk on country with sort of project reps, as well as the local Indigenous representatives. And now we've undertaken a variation of scope to Aboriginal and cultural interpretation report. So that will sort of inform detailed design around sort of what culture needs to be told and what stories potentially that can then get embedded in the design. So that's where we're at. What we're hoping to do is to put the concept out for public comment, and then also reporting back to the committee with the findings, comments from the review of expectations. We've got a question.
I think that was it. So we're up for questions.
Any more questions from anybody before we move along?
Really just a bit of guidance.
And Councillor Daniels does have a hand up too after Councillor Neil.
There is a lot of interest and caution about the Memorial Park. Everyone's frightened that it's going to be hurt in some way or altered. So I think it's really important when it goes on exhibition, that's made very clear that
It's excluded from this project.
yeah, so because you'll get almost instant reactions. But I think it's great that it's going ahead. I don't really want to change anything now before people have the opportunity to have a look at it. But I think you'll find that Anderson Park is just people want recreational areas.
So one thing that we didn't have on the slide, so the whole project has been priced at roughly the $5 million. Of that, we got $1 million grant funding already for the swimming enclosure, and we got $634,000 of Section 711 funding for it. So a third of it's already funded, but this will open up the opportunity for grant funding.
Will that first amount of funding allow for the replacement of those toilets?
That's in the toilet strategy, so that's more than likely funded as well as part of the toilet strategy.
Public toilet strategy that came before.
Yeah, no, I didn't know where the funding came from, which one.
I'll have to get that one for you.
Just move to, when you finish this, to Councillor Daniels because she's had a hand up for a while. Councillor Daniels?
Thank you. Just two questions. Firstly, with the swimming enclosure, is that disability access or like there was a little bit off to the sort of eastern side? Is that disability?
Yeah, that's correct. That's one of the reasons that we're actually taking some of the foreshore to get us so we can actually get a disability access into the water and not just onto the sand. So yes, it's got full disability access.
Okay, awesome. That's great. And my other question was just with the Anderson Park, I agree with what everybody was saying about the skate ramp. I think that's a terrible idea. But has it been considered putting like picnic tables and that kind of thing in there? Because there's, the fish and chip shop, there's always people trying to have picnics down there and there's never enough places to sit. Has that been considered?
Yeah, that was pretty the do nothing one, which it was picnic tables, seating, like the yarning circle is just like seats around, like 6 blocks around so people can sit on them, but it gives it a bit of a cultural feeling. So yes, it was about making it that, adding more seats and tables in there.
Thank you. We may have to move along, I think, unless there's absolutely burning topic that you need to ask tonight.
Just one,
Further?
sorry.
Yes, go quickly.
How much of the water space are we reclaiming? Wasn't a huge.
No, it's probably about 3.5, 4 meters.
It's hard to put a figure on it. It's
Tidal.
Yeah, it's tidal. So it's improving access. So by reclaiming some of that land, then we can get that access down to the water, which is not currently.
So the estimates are around 3 metres.
About 3 to 4 meters.
Okay, so I'll move the recommendation, but with the addition that on item 3, that the plan exhibition or the when it goes to exhibition, it's made absolutely clear that Memorial Park is not going to be
Part of the scope of works, yeah.
and that that will be dealt with further.
Yeah.
Reports done.
So for the makers.
That there'd be an item 3.
Yeah.
That when the master plan is put on exhibition, that it is made abundantly clear that no alteration is being made to the space of the Memorial Park until further investigate. What's it called? The report.
The Heritage Conservation Management Plan.
Until the conservation is undertaken. Until the Heritage Conservation Management Plan.
That memorial.
Or Memorial Park.
Are you okay now?
Is excluded from.
Is excluded from.
the master plan.
Made abundantly clear
Once it's already there.
that no alteration is made to Memorial Park.
You don't need to do the second manually. Second button.
Until the heritage. Do we have heritage in there somewhere, Belinda?
Until the heritage.
So now.
It's from the, it's made, till the Heritage Conservation Master Plan.
Management plan. Yeah.
Management, no, if we say no alteration until, then they'll think that it is going to be.
It will just maybe no alteration made to Memorial Park as part of this master plan.
Yeah,
As part of this master plan, yeah.
yeah.
Maybe, we note that a heritage conservation management plan will be undertaken. Do we have a time?
It would need to be undertaken. We're not committing to do that bit. It would probably be our heritage team. So when
We need to leave that one off at this point in time, yes.
We know, I'd like to mention that's going to be, I think if you just say will need to be done, then it doesn't say timescale, but I want to make it clear that we're not going to start.
So that would be a 0.4.
Well, as part of that, as part of 3.
If you would like me to maybe provide some words, just say, count that committee note that no works can be undertaken Memorial Park without an approved.
Yeah.
Works. They'll be approved.
Heritage.
Oh, that would be that'd be a form.
That can then all go to 3.
Just a separate note.
Yeah.
That works can be undertaken on Memorial Park without an approved.
Many MPs, and just for consistency, we might change that 28 to 42 as well. To item 1.
Master plan to 42.
Yeah, okay. All right. Is that so? That's right.
Signature.
There's an extra S in undertaken.
So you're moving?
Now, do I have a mover for this recommendation?
Sorry, can I just
Belinda?
ask a quick question?
Yes, sorry
to interrupt.
Councillor Davis.
Just about the 42 days, is that going to affect the short time of the grant that was given? Is that going to be okay?
It will impact. Yeah. So any delay to adoption of the master plan means that we can't proceed detailed design.
It's only 14 days, so it won't significantly.
Are we happy with what we've got here now? Now you've moved, Belinda, Councillor Neil. Do I have a seconded? Councillor Walsh, seconded Councillor Walsh. All those in favour? Unanimous? Thank you. Okay, now we're flipping back to where, thank you very much, Greg. And sorry, I've forgotten your name.
Alex.
And Alex,
Thank
sorry,
you.
Alex.
So back to.
We're going back again now to Australia Day Awards. Right. Okay, so this is item 1.6, Australia Day Award changes for adoption. Could I invite you, Director Smith, just to give a little bit of an overview on this matter before anybody might go to questions or whatever?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the reason for looking at the changes to this were we have noticed a decline in applications or nominations for the awards. We also the review. So when we're in administration, the review panel was significantly different to what we're proposing here. And also some of the anecdotal feedback that we've had from the community over the last couple of years is that they aren't as personalised to the Central Coast community as they could otherwise be.
Oh, interesting.
Why do they say that?
I wouldn't have thought that on the last one.
Yeah.
I think just because of the name.
I think there might be some confusion between the National Australia Day Awards and Australia Day.
Mm.
To answer your question, we haven't asked that question specifically.
But you're recommending the change of the name, so you obviously think it's part of the.
We're hoping that it will have, it will provide a significant improvement in the number of nominations we receive.
I think what you have is a lot of negative comments as well. Changing the
To
name.
the change.
Yeah. I suppose that's the balance in all of these things.
Australia Day is an interesting one.
Yes.
Mm. Mm. And one of the things, just sort of to perhaps highlight that when I had a conversation with Director Smith and basically probably asked some similar things that have been asked here this evening. And I guess one of the things that's important, I suppose, was important to me when I looked at this and then read through the report and all the rest of it was that although if this is adopted, that the name of the actual awards may possibly be different if it was to be, obviously resolved that way, and obviously endorsed by the full council, that the other events that happen around Australia Day in terms of, community events that we have on the coast, all that kind of stuff, the citizenship stuff, all of those things, they remain the same. And so it just gave me a bit more context as to what we were actually looking at here. So I'm just sharing that with you, just so that I guess that was my insight into it once we had a bit of a chat about it. I had a bit of a closer look at it.
These are still happening on Australia Day.
Yes, Director Smith, the awards, regardless of what they may or may not be called in the end, it's still happening at that same time of year.
It still happens.
Yes.
At the same time.
Same, yes. Other questions?
Is there an observation on opinion? Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. Councillor Crowley, you go, and then I'll go to Councillor Daniels.
It's an observation on opinion about the Australia Day. There's been a lot of consternation over the last few years about Australia Day. And people wanting to change the date and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just wondering whether it's probably maybe an idea, change the name to move it away from that name.
Yeah, well, I think that as part of the recommendation is that we call the Central Coast Community Award.
Mm.
Maybe that will.
But
Yeah.
still around that same time.
Have it on Australia Day, but not called it.
Could I just go to Councillor Daniels because she has her hand up? Councillor Daniels?
Just personally, I think it's a shame to lose it, the name. I understand why. Has it been considered perhaps like fitting it in with there, like Central Coast Community Australia Day Awards? Like I know it's a mouthful, but change it slightly rather than going away from it completely. I know it's a very divisive kind of issue, but maybe that'll keep both sides a bit more happy.
Any
I've got another
comments
option,
on that?
and that is package this up as Central Coast Council Australia Day activities, if you will. And you've got the community awards, you've got the citizenship ceremony, and you've got other things that happen on the Australia Day. But if you just went out and said, oh, we're dropping the Australia Day from this, there'd be issues. But if you packaged all of the activities around Australia Day, and one of them is the community awards.
And I think that's what we've done. So if you read into the.
I understand that, but if that went out now, there would be some.
Your suggestion is to change the recommendations to reflect the package
Would be part of
of
the Australian Day celebrations, whatever. And part of that would be the community awards.
So
I don't know, it's
do-
probably going against everything that's written in the report, but
No,
No,
it's
it's
not.
really.
as long as it's not, that's okay.
I think you can just change
Yeah.
recommendation one,
Yeah.
rather than say, I suppose you do have to say it's a name change. I think you do have to do a bit of fiddling with that. Recommendation one in order to bring that about.
So could we say
Put in another one. Sorry.
that the committee recommends to council that the suite of offerings for Australia Day
Yes.
include the Central Coast Community Awards.
Mhm.
Do we need to keep saying Central Coast?
Yes.
Well,
I like
then,
that.
so we've got Central Coast Community Awards. We have citizenship ceremony.
Yeah.
Right, that's not Central
And
Coast
the
Citizen.
Australia Day fireworks and family festival.
I'm saying it's probably better to package it than having it stand alone.
So, okay, so we're not calling it, so why don't we call it Central Coast Citizenship?
Because citizenship is different.
Yeah.
It's
No,
actually
no, no.
federal government
It's
function.
federal based, yeah.
No, citizenship is about becoming a citizen of Australia. These are awards for community
Yeah, yeah,
people.
yeah, get that. So based on what John's saying about packaging it up,
Mhm.
why wouldn't we call it Central Coast Citizenship Ceremony?
Because it's not citizenship. Citizenship is about,
Yeah, yeah, I know, separately to the awards.
yes.
Separately to the-
So an award is for a person
That's
to
right.
recognise their community service.
That, because it's sat on that,
Person,
sat on that panel this year, however, separately to that, yours talking about packaging up as events.
so he's saying we name it as the citizenship ceremony, which is separate to the awards. The Central Coast Community Awards, separate to the citizenship. The Australia Day fireworks
So,
and the family festival.
yes, I think the four really has to become one.
Yeah.
And also it should be on Australia Day rather than for Australia Day because.
We'll lead with that.
Yeah.
And do we have to say name change? I suppose we do because you presently call it.
So what we've got is the suite of operations for Australia, Central Coast Community Awards, the license that's showing and other.
Was it ever formally resolved? It was called the Australia Day Award?
Would have to go back.
We only need to actually change it. It was actually ever resolved that way.
Sorry, what was the question?
I'm just saying that was there ever a decision of council
To resolve
an
it?
Australia Day Award?
Oh, I see, like a resolution.
Yeah, if there's no resolution,
Right.
then we don't need to change them.
Call
No.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Well thought out.
Yeah. Okay, so where are we going with this? in
Well,
that
what we're
case?
saying is that we don't
Yeah.
have to say, because what'll draw the crabs is the changing the name.
I know.
So what
Yeah.
we could do is, rather than refer this to council, we could defer it until the next meeting and I can,
Why don't we do that?
Yeah.
as to whether
That's all.
there is a resolution
Yeah.
on the books of council.
What's it called?
Yeah. So, do I have a move to defer to the September meeting of this,
There's no
meeting?
crabs there.
Belinda,
Yes.
you moved that?
Yes.
Councillor Neil, Councillor McMurray seconded. Oh, hang on, Councillor McGregor's got his hand up.
No.
No, I might have missed him seconding. Sorry, Councillor McGregor.
No, I
Um,
wanted to move that it be deferred.
Yeah,
Yes, oh, yes,
thank you.
thank you. Okay. So we're deferring to the next meeting, which is the September meeting of
Aye.
Community Council. All those in favour?
Aye.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, unanimous. And apologies, I just didn't see your hand up there, Councillor McGregor. It's difficult sometimes with this screen. It really is, isn't it?
Have a red light or
We
something.
need something. It's really hard, actually. Yeah. I'm not trying to make excuses for myself. It's actually really.
I think it's quite a good excuse.
I think it's a really good excuse.
Okay.
Still, all right. So and you're fine with that? All good? Okay. All right. So now we are on to item 1.7, draft grants and sponsorship policies, which is up for public exhibition. Again, Director Smith, can you give us a bit of background? Hopefully, everybody's had a chance to read the information about this.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
That's
So historically, there were two streams of funds available to the community. There was community grants and there was sponsorship programs. When in 2020, when there were some financial issues, those streams were amalgamated together and consolidated into 3 grant funding programs.
What was the consolidated amount?
The consolidated, so prior to the financial issues, it was around about $1.2 million, and there were 6 different grant programs. They were consolidated down to 3 grant programs, which included sponsorships. They were reduced down to 3 funding streams to the value of $900,000 in total.
The 1.2 down to 900.
Correct. So one of the things that we have noticed over the years is that with the events and activations grant, which is the once a year grant, there are repeat large scale events that apply for those grants.
Same events year on year.
Yeah.
What we are, and some of those large scale events are really fantastic in terms of attracting tourism and activating the region. So what we are proposing is that 15% of the 3 grant programs, so that's $50,000 per category, comes out of that, and we develop a sponsorship program with multi-year funding. So the applicants, for example, might apply against the sponsorship program, and council might endorse that they receive 3 years worth of funding to run their projects.
Do you have an example, Mel?
Example is the Oyster Festival is one of those projects. The other one was a 5 Lands Walk. There were a couple of other significant projects. If you
Criteria is about bringing people, attracting outside.
The Oyster Festival?
Yeah, and events that you want to,
Yeah.
because they do bring.
And what about, I think maybe it was mentioned, or I think it was, like that, things like that coastal twist or those kind
I
of,
don't think that's got funding.
do they fit with the sponsorship thing? Yeah, they do.
historically they have, yes.
Good way to answer.
So that's the proposal before you, and the idea would be that we would come back to the next committee meeting with the sponsorship guidelines firmed up.
What was, I know, what are some of the benefits? I mean, apart from the fact it obviously gives organisations a bit of stability around, you know, knowing that they actually have got 3 years and they don't have to be spending inordinate amounts of time reinventing the wheel every year. And I no doubt council staff, it probably would be heaps of work for them as well, etc., etc. Are there other sort of benefits for them in terms of it would work better with the sponsorship model that you've seen in the past, as opposed to the year on sort of year off thing?
Look, I think the main benefit is it gives them security.
Right.
So to set up a major event of that scale is an enormous amount of work.
Yeah.
And if the program's only open for 60 days or 90 days for applications.
Mm.
They then have to wait for the next cycle of council to find out whether they've been approved to receive that
Yeah.
grant. Then they have to scramble to get their DAs, all of their approvals,
all that stuff.
all their traffic management plans, waste management plans, all of those things in place. It is a lot of work and very high expectations on them to be able to turn that round in a short space of time.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Sorry, up to you, Sharon.
Just on, if we were looking at, say, for example, a 3-year model, how might that affect accruals and, you know, like a grant that is provided annually, assuming the same group might apply annually, that same grant, so they would accrue that every year. Yes, so how might a 3-year model affect that?
So what we would need to do is to write into the guidelines approved by council includes CPI for the 2 years,
Otherwise,
which is how budgets are normally built most of the time anyway.
okay.
I was a little concerned about a few things. One is the 15% reduction overall. And we've already obviously had a fairly big slug, 300,000 out in previous years. I'd be reluctant to decrease. That's my personal view.
You want to get the money from somewhere else?
Well, I just think it's, I mean, it's not a great deal of money, and it's a very important part of building a sense of community and sort of community infrastructure, sort of further decrease it.
That assumes that we used all the money that we had last year. Would that be correct?
I think so.
I don't think we did.
Some of them haven't.
So I'd need to come back to you with confirmation on that.
Yeah.
I think some of the issues too under the community grants program is community grants, if you think of it, of how they are fundamentally meant to be distributed, they're meant to be seed funding for organisations to be able to grow themselves and develop themselves. What we've seen historically is it's the same organisations applying year on year with multiple applications. So there's some organisations that put in over 12 applications a year.
But they don't get
per organisation. No, they don't. They get a number, but at the moment that's sort of limitless. The whole idea of any grants program is to provide seed funding and for us to be able to work with them to grow their business so they're not reliant on grants.
Not their operational.
Exactly. It's not their core operational reliance. The other thing that we see in the grants program too is there are significant applications from community groups for grant funds to do improvement works to community facilities.
Well,
so
that is one I actually have an issue with. Just sort of going back to that's a valid concern that the same group are applying and other people are excluding. I think that can be remedied by putting in a criteria that says you can't have more than one grant in a certain period rather than using the money overall. So that's my view on that particular one. In relation to the two exclusions that are being recommended, I have concerns about. One is that exactly that, no upgrades to council-owned facilities properties. I mean, there are so many community organisations that use council-owned property, all the sort of community halls, many childcare centres, PYC. I'm sure there's like you could think of many more than I can that are going to be excluded from sort of these micro grants that can actually make a big difference.
They get it from the state.
Sorry?
Those organisations apply for the state grants.
No, but what I'm saying is they're in council buildings, and we actually fund
in council. I thought you meant to upgrade council buildings.
So there are other ways to fund improvements to community facilities that are occupied by community centres other than a grants program.
And what is that?
So it's looking at the maintenance schedules of the particular facilities. It is applying for state and federal government grants. There's a number of mechanisms that we can work with them on.
I have to confess, I don't see that as a solution to that problem. I'd have to agree and disagree. The other one is the digital, excluding anything digital. I mean, digital is half our world now.
A lot of the applications are for, we need a printer and we need a laptop to run our registrations or something like that.
That's not, well, I wouldn't even consider that digital. I would consider that.
A lot of the applications are for that.
Yeah, but I don't think digital excluding, I think it says digital websites, applications and web-based subscriptions, platform maintenance, not eligible. So I think that hardware would still be.
So that's in the existing grants policy already, is
It says include the following as ineligible in guidelines.
It's already there.
So if it's, why are we including it in this? If it's already there.
Any other?
Because I've seen them rejected already.
Yeah.
So it must be in there somewhere.
I need to come back to you on that one.
Just the way the report's written, when it says include the following as ineligible in
You're
guidelines,
assuming that it's
we're
already.
assuming that it's not excluded. Well, I would have, by logic, assume that. And then it says including the following limits for applications in guidelines. I'm assuming that that limit is not in there.
No, there currently is no limit.
So, any other, it's a tricky one, to be quite honest, isn't it? I think.
So we've got a couple of questions
Yeah.
and actions. We're saying that we're deferring this as well. Is there a time?
There is no time imperative for this, but the proposal is that it come into effect in the 26-27
Oh,
Yeah,
financial year.
Yeah.
I can provide you further information at the September meeting if that's what you would like.
Councillor McGregor, Daniels, your thoughts on deferring this or not?
I'd be keen to see it deferred.
Yeah.
Around, especially around the reduction.
Mm,
So.
it's concerning.
So what would you,
Like, is it unreasonable to ask for some sort of report on where there might be?
so maybe the historical underspends in the existing grants project?
Yeah.
Good, yes, and
Is the problem that we have 15% less money already allocated? Is that the issue?
yeah,
Let's get down to the nitty gritty.
So you've approved the 900 in the budget. No, it's not reducing it, it's saying, so what we're fundamentally saying is what we do now is we allocate that amount of money to large scale, multi-year events on an annual basis already.
So I've been interested in any potential underspends on those events, especially.
There aren't any of those events.
Right. So where
Could
I'm
we-
going, sorry, yep.
Sorry, could we maybe, instead of saying reducing the community grants program, just say we're redirecting those funds because we're still going to be
That's not
spending
right.
the same money?
I don't think that's correct because it says, the actual report says from the 26-27 financial year, the community grants program budget is proposed to be reduced by 15%. I mean, there's no getting around that. It's not redirected.
Yeah, and
Well, it,
I just, the
does that
delay,
include the sponsorship for the 3-year type stuff? That doesn't.
no,
Exactly.
No, but so you're saying the 15% goes to the sponsorship? Is that where?
already.
Yes.
Currently goes. So what we're doing is saying, let's
shares on the Titanic sort of.
exactly. So what we're saying is let's sterilise that component of it that we already allocate on an annual basis
Which
to
leaves
the
it
large scale events, which leaves the same amount that we already spend each year on the community grants to the community.
So if we were to adopt these recommendations, would the total money given for grants be the same or not?
Yeah,
Still
it
be
sounds like-
100,000?
it sounds like
No, I want to actually
Yes.
know.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
So I do think we need to use a different word to reduce.
But I would prefer to see the documents that are at the end of the report, which show the new proposed grants policy, we can't really compare it to what presently is. Is it possible to get it marked up so we know what the difference is? And if there's no rush,
That would
we
be
can get that
helpful.
and then defer that till.
So I move that we defer the item 1.7, I think we're up to.
Yeah, 1.7.
Until the September meeting.
And the committee members provided with a marked up
Yeah.
arranged copy of the
Yeah.
proposed guidelines.
So track changes copy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And the financials, so the historical underspend assurance that the 900,000 is in the budget, which is the same
Yeah.
amount.
That changes copy and historical underspend. Historic.
Or otherwise.
Is there a pattern of underspending?
Historical financial
Particular
report.
grants?
I
Yeah.
can't tell you.
About underspending.
I can't tell you.
Exactly. So it presumes the end result.
Yeah.
It does. Show us.
Is that okay? Director?
That makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. Is that all we need on there? I think,
So it should just say that the director provide to members of the committee track change copies.
Out of session?
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Aren't you allowed to go home before dark?
Is that okay?
Right.
All right, we've got a second.
Okay, so who moved and seconded? I've got myself very confused now.
I'm happy to.
Move, second. Okay, so that was councillor Neil moved, councillor Walsh seconded. All those in favour of the deferral and direction to provide that other information for us so that we can make a sensible decision. All those in favour? Yes, I can see the screen too. Unanimous. Thanks, everybody. Right, we've done 1.8. 1.9. 1.9. We don't, oh, that's right, that's done anyway.
Was moved.
That was moved by exception, 1.9, so we don't need to discuss that. So in that case,
Well done, Chair.
I know the next meeting will be at 5 o'clock, Tuesday, 9th of September, here. And I declare the meeting closed at 6:38 p.m.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Councillor Fair, Councillor Daniels for joining us online. Good evening, everybody.
I'll keep it posted. You might hear us about the
Make sure you get that, man.
mentioned it to him today.
You want to see? Your lift?
No, no.
You're on?
Exercise.